failure does not come into my father's vocabulary. That does not mean that his attempts at various things have not failed. They have. It's an amazing journey which only God could have managed. Numerous times he would say, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Do you think you can do a better job than him?" So we've had several life-threatening crises even in the business world, and one of those was in 2009 when at 11:30 we got a notice on the fax machine from the regulator saying that our license is suspended from 12 noon. Now that is like trying to derail a train or bring a train to an immediate stop. Craziness unfolded, and we did not even know why and what was going on. Clearly, as it unfolded over the next few days, we realized it was a major plot to disable the group in some ways. And there was speculation, there was rumors that they were trying to take it over, competent authority was going to be appointed. And in that process, they made some wild allegations of money laundering and terrorist funding. And I was in the United States at the time following a program, and my father on the phone told me, "Son, the Bible says that the man who thinks he stands needs to be careful and let them do anything, because I know my family can go back to sleeping on the floor like you all did, and that's not a problem. So let them do whatever they wanted to do." And I think that boldness is what defines us even today. A boldness that is not worried about the consequences. People say, "I had no choice" when they compromise on their principles. I think you always have a choice. The question is whether you are willing to pay the price of that choice that you make. And I think that if you make the right choices, you can face every day with not just boldness but with pride. Because once you begin to compromise, you're on a slippery slope downwards. See, we actually have 5 core values as a group, and the first one is integrity. That has been the very foundation, and that has prevented us from being just like any other business. And if we had compromised then, because with any value, any position that one takes, until you're shaken or until you're challenged, you don't really live it out. Like it's in marriage where you say in sickness or in health, and then when sickness hits, the person is out the door. Only when your cage is rattled, you really find out whether you're true to those values and whether those values really mean something to you, and whether that's the foundation of your lives, not just your business. And so I think that that just reinforced the fact that it doesn't matter the cost. We will not compromise. And therefore, that guides us even today more so, because we've now articulated it. We've like almost branded it and selling it to every newcomer to say this is something we will not compromise on. So it's interesting, ESG is the buzzword today, and a few years ago it was what they call the triple bottom line of CSR and all of those things. But when we started, or rather when my father founded Janashakti 30 plus years ago, our payoff line was, let us light the light of insurance in every home. It was not based on let us make as much profit as we can, let us try to have the highest growth every year. It was with what was really a social cause. And he used to tell us many times, "Son, a rich man dies, his family is not destitute. It's when a poor man dies that his family is destitute." And therefore, he really felt in his heart, and we talk about purpose today, and we try to, in management, start articulating these things. But his purpose was to actually give vulnerable families protection in the case of an eventuality which they have not planned for and cannot control. And so the motivation was not profit. The motivation was never profit. His ethos was always, you do the right thing, the profit will come, and the growth will come. And that is what we do even today. It's not about the pursuit of profit at all. And people sometimes get caught up with wanting to make a little extra money or wanting to build their personal wealth, and they have personal goals on what car they want to have or what house they want to have. And unfortunately or fortunately, my father still stays in the same location in Nugegoda since before he was married. He's never had the aspiration to move to Colombo as many have. He walks around in a sarong and barefoot and whatever. So there is no lifestyle change on brands and such things. He would have a watch and that watch would say the same time as what someone with a designer watch has. And so very rooted in terms of what his lifestyle is and in terms of the company. It's a very generous, compassionate kind of company rather than this ruthless capitalism that is talked about. And in some ways that has shaped my view of capitalism itself, because I think that having a conscience can exist with capitalism, and having no conscience can exist irrespective of what ideology you subscribe to in economics. So I think it's a combination of both that really is important. You've given some big titles, and I don't think my father endorsed any of those. I just think he endorsed hard work. He did not tolerate laziness. And one of the things, and my father is an exception when it comes to parenting, and it's quite amazing because if you know his background, he lost his mother when he was 2 and he lost his father when he was 10. So essentially for somebody who grew up with no parenting, he's an amazing parent. With someone who had no direct, immediate love from a parent, he has an abundance of love that comes from within. In fact, it's a very tough act to follow. I remember saying this and it stuck in my head. I was at an event, a staff event, and one of our staff members had a Down syndrome child. And I saw my father with his arm around the child and talking to that child, and I was thinking, I would never be able to do that. And that is a sort of love that he has that transcends boundaries. It doesn't matter whether the person is disabled or brilliant. It doesn't matter whether the person is rich or poor. And that is a sort of lifestyle that he has exemplified. And when it came to parenting, which is really what I'm talking about, he never restrained us. He always encouraged us to pursue what we would like. So when we were growing up, he said, you do this and then you can do whatever you want. He never compelled us to come and join the family business. I was working in the UK, I was well employed, and I left that and came into the family business. That was my choice, not something my father pushed on us. And I think that is important for any parent, to allow their child to find their own space, to allow their child to grow into being the individual that that child is destined to be, not the shape and size that the parent wants the child to be. And I think that's an important thing, and it's amazing that my father, who had no parenting in that sense, actually would be such a wonderful parent and enable, and I think that's the role of any parent, enable their child to be the best version of themselves. So you talk about business, you talk about social entrepreneur. Something you didn't mention is that I'm also a preacher. And when I had that call upon my life, I was almost 40. And to some extent, I was a bit nervous. Now I'm in the company, I'm in the business, to go and tell my father, now God is calling me to do this. But he has been my biggest encourager. And he did not say, no, why do you want to go and do that? He actually encouraged me in every way to follow that calling. And I think that's the amazing role that a father plays. So there's two aspects to that question. One is that yes, I have pursued along with my wife certain non-business causes, and my father always encouraged us to do what we could do, whatever that we could do, and therefore that pursuit was always encouraged as a pursuit in itself. Then there's a question of failure, and that applies as much to non-business endeavors as much as it does to business endeavors. The word failure never came into my father's vocabulary. He always spoke about having a confidence in what you're doing and pursuing it with your fullest ability. Why failure comes is either because people are half-baked in their efforts, or they are actually not committed to the idea itself and therefore groping a bit in the dark, if I could use that phrase. So failure does not come into my father's vocabulary. That does not mean that his attempts at various things have not failed. They have. But there's a confidence even in that failure. So you pick yourself up and continue to the next adventure. And that's what it is. Life is an adventure. It's not an end in itself. So you enjoy every day. And you enjoy every endeavor, you enjoy every initiative, and of course there's a joy in seeing it successful as well. But it cannot define the person that you are. So for example, I've been in the same house for the last 25 years. I have no desire to have a bigger house, a better house, or a better location. And therefore, the pursuit of whatever that I'm doing in the professional or social sphere does not impact on who I am as a person. So we came from very difficult circumstances. It's not just that my father was an orphan. He then was very successful. He set off in business on his own at the age of 42 when he had 4 children who were like below 7 or 8 years old. He then relocated the family to India and we slept in one room on the floor. And that's why I said very early on, he's confident that we can go back to that without having any issues. So for many years, until I was 14, I never slept in a bed. I slept on the floor. And so that has been part of our journey. That has been part of what we are brought up with. And so it comes back to what the pursuit is for. The pursuit is to use your talents, your gifting to achieve something and make a change in the world around you. And that is absolutely important. And when you ask the question about when have I felt that home is heaven? Every day. Whether we were coming home to sleep 6 in a room on the floor, or whether when we came back to Sri Lanka from the UK, when we were traveling, 4 of us, my father and my 2 brothers and myself, 4 of us early morning in a little light ace van to work, or when we were finding our way home in one of the 2 tuks that we had at the workplace, our joy was never measured by the circumstances we were in. It transcends that. And I think that's important for anyone. And my parents, and here it would be unfair to just give that credit to my father. My mother is the rock in the family because for much of our life, my father was out and he would come back to see us and go, and we were like a single parent home. But one thing, actually 2 things I've noticed or realized now. He was always there when we had our holidays. He was always there when he had our exams. And that is the comfort that he gave us. He would travel with us. Even in our adult days when I was doing my management accounting exams, he would travel with us in the train to the exam location. He'll hang around. He'll make sure that lunch is ready for us between papers. And he did everything he could to eliminate stress in our life. And I think that is what makes home into heaven. Minimize the anxieties, minimize the stress points that a child is going through and later on in adult years. And that is what a home creates. It's that safe environment where you can be in a world of chaos and you can get home and know, I'm home, I'm safe, everything's good. And that's the sort of family environment that my parents created. My father in particular, as I said, absentee father, but always present at the key points in our life. And I think that's important. Every day we wake up, go to school, he's not around. Parents, teachers, my mother is the one who did. In fact, I think the school didn't know I had a father. But when we had exams, when we had some important sporting event, when there's a cricket match, he would come and quietly sit on the side and watch. Never interferes, never coached us. People would think, he was a sportsman, national cricketer, he must have coached. Never coached us, never coaxed us to follow a certain profession or sport. He encouraged us to flourish in the space that we found ourselves in. And I think that's an amazing legacy of parenting, an amazing legacy of fatherhood. And I think that is something that would help any parent, not to live their dreams through their children, but allow their children to grow up to pursue their own dreams. There's several things, because my father is a non-church going Christian, very deeply rooted in his faith, and you'll be amazed at the amount of scripture that comes out of his mouth at various times. But he's not one who is publicly seen as being a Christian figure or preaching and stuff like that. But it's very deeply rooted within him. Numerous times, especially in my younger days, I was a very hot-blooded, aggressive, perhaps even violent person. And numerous times he would say, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Do you think you can do a better job than him? Don't try to get your own vengeance." And that used to be so difficult to process, because sometimes you just want to bash someone up because of what they've done and you feel completely justified. And yet he would always subscribe to non-violence and non-pursuit of vengeance. Then there's the one about integrity and always having a choice and there being a price to pay. And whether we're actually willing to walk the talk by paying that price, whatever that means. So my mother, who's I mentioned earlier, equally strong, used to tell us, "Son, even if your life depends upon it, you have to honor your word." And that sort of thing, inculcated from a young age, really helps us to be rooted in something very, very, very firm. And so my father, I can't plot one little thing. I can just say that it is constantly there, that deep-rooted faith that no matter what anyone tries to throw at him, that God is on his side, and therefore he does not have to react, he does not have to respond, and therefore we do not have to react in the way the world would react. That we can just stand firm, and with God on our side, that God will look after that. You know, there's a phrase in the Bible that says that if God is with us, who can be against us? And we really believe that if you analyze the journey of my father's life to where he is today, it's an amazing journey which only God could have managed. No human being could have orchestrated this or crafted this or designed this pathway. And my father is the first to acknowledge that. Even recently he celebrated his 95th birthday, and his closing words at his speech was, "I owe it first to my God and second to my school." And that has been the foundation of his life. Acknowledgement that whatever that he may have been able to achieve is purely by the grace and favor of God. So the amazing thing about my father is that his lifestyle was that he would wake up around 3 a.m. He would work until about 5:30, which meant that he would do enough dictation that would keep his secretary or secretaries busy the entire day. Because this was in the pre-email days, and they would have to type and get it corrected and then send it out and whatever. Which meant that from 5:30 or so, he was very relaxed, he'll get dressed, he's in office by 7, maybe 7:30. There came a time when he would joyfully drop the grandchildren in school, and 7:30 he's at work. From 7:30, the outside of his room is like a bus stand. There's a line of people of all walks of life, some business related, some immediate work related problem solving, some coming with some personal problem from some remote area. And the amazing thing is now, because he's woken up so early and essentially done his work for the day, he had enough time to talk to them, to sort their problems, to essentially mentor them before we knew the word mentoring, disciple them if you want. And so there are many who've learned from him simply by watching and working with him. I know one of his close associates, Uncle Rafiq, would say, "From the age of 16, I worked with your appa, no? So I only know what he does. Only 1 or 2 of his bad habits I haven't got." Because Uncle Rafiq is Muslim, and so he says, "I don't take loans. Other than that, everything I learned from your father." So there's an ongoing life-sharing, authentic self that everyone who worked with him saw. And apart from that, he had an amazing amount of time. He was never too busy for someone. And I often say this, he's someone who could walk with kings and eat with peasants. And that helped him to transcend all these boundaries, man-made walls of affluence and whatever else. And so I saw this. And so in my adult life, I'm still young, I see the need to give back to the next generation, irrespective of their backgrounds, irrespective of their abilities, to share with them what I know. That's the best I can do. And I've been inspired in that journey by my father, but I've formalized it under the Inspiring Change Foundation. I've covered such areas as defining success, because I believe the definition of success in the world is completely flawed. It's a pursuit of economic wealth. It's not about holistic well-being. It's not about peaceful and joyful households. It's not about building a family life. So we have these things now being talked about in the corporate world about work-life balance and such things. But like I said, my father had work-life balance. He was not there when we didn't really need him. He was always there when we needed him. And that has been a guiding principle for me. So with the ICF, I've also encouraged people to pursue excellence, whatever their field. Not to live vicariously someone else's dreams. So the whole thing is that my father has been a real life mentor, role model. He is a disciplinarian. He is uncompromising when it matters. And those qualities have certainly molded me and made me who I am. And I'm hopeful, because I think these are good qualities, I'm hopeful I can impart these to people around the world whom I do not know, who come from all walks of life. So through Inspiring Change Foundation, it's like open to all who want to register and come and learn something. Some come, they really embrace it, they want to learn from others, and I'm happy to share. It doesn't cost me anything to share what I already know. Freely I receive, freely I give.